right. Well, the next panel is something that is very dear to me because we are going to talk about AI in retention, which is the area where I am particularly focused in nowadays. As a very short introduction about myself, I am the product growth manager at Omniconvert, and I have been working in e-commerce from a brand perspective, agency perspective, and now from a product perspective, helping businesses grow. And I want to welcome our amazing panelists today. So we've got everyone here.
No.
All right. And let's take this off. All right, we've got Maurice, Tim, Lucy, and Talia. I'm glad to see the only two women in this in this event in my panel, which I'm not mad about. All right. Well, first of all, would you guys be able to help me with a short description of what you do, introduction, and basically what are you doing in retention? Because this panel is about retention. Who wants to start? Otherwise, I'm pointing fingers.
I can go first. Hey guys, my name is Tim Richardson. I'm the co-founder of Factory. We're an AI-first commerce agency. We work with direct-to-consumer and multi-channel brands. And what we do is work with them to make better conversion, smarter retention, and all with the use of practical AI application. We also run Offcuts, which is a podcast and a newsletter where we explore the intersection of commerce, culture, and AI. And in terms of what we do, we do a lot of retention marketing with our clients. It's the stuff that you could imagine: Klaviyo, loyalty, subscription, etc. I'm not going to speak too much on that because I have my co-founder here, Lucy, which I might go to after this. Nice to be here.
Thanks, Tim.
Great to have you.
I am Lucy, co-founder of Factory, and Tim sort of summarized it pretty well. We are very interested in how you can use AI effectively to help people with retention, but I'm looking forward to discuss where it's still maybe not quite right, and where it should be approached with caution. My day-to-day, I'm helping our customers think about retention, but not in a kind of scattergun, just looking purely at getting as many people on your mailing list as possible, but actually knowing who your customers are and working out the best way to speak to them. And it might not always be the best way of speaking to one person. It is the best way of speaking to somebody else, and AI can be very helpful with that.
Yeah, so thank you so much. You actually tapped into my first question, but I'm gonna let everyone introduce themselves, and then I'm gonna kickstart that.
Shall I be the next? My name is Maurice. I'm working for Online Dialogue. This is Dutch CRO company. Yes, we work with retention, but we especially work with CRO and experimentation, A/B testing, and research on customers. But our main goal is to recognize and to learn our customers better and better, to become to let our customers grow in a better way. So retention is certainly a part of it, but not the only part. So that's
all right. That's it. That's exactly right.
Okay, so my turn. So I'm Talia Wolf, and I'm the founder of Get Uplift, which is a conversion optimization agency. And we focus entirely on optimizing for customer first experiences. So everything that we do is around creating better experiences that are around psychology and emotion, and looking at the entire funnel. So from the beginning all the way through to retention. So as Maurice mentioned, not just retention, but every touch point in the funnel, and just making sure that people are heard, seen, and getting the experiences that they want to convert to and are looking for.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Talia. All right, well, let's kick this with the most heard thing on LinkedIn around retention. And this is something that I am particularly struck with, because every time we hear about retention, AI and post-purchase experiences, everyone is talking about personalization. I mean, I'm all for personalization. I feel like you need to treat each customer differently, but I feel like the way people are talking about personalization is not that in depth, or not that I mean, it's not just changing the name in an email or showing a few particular products in front of a particular customer. It's more than that, right? Like, what's your take on personalization?
I would say that I think the biggest issue right now is that personalization kind of feels like a template at this point. So it's based on like rules and kind of different segments, and we're trying to put consumers into buckets and then say, okay, if we do this, then that. And yes, obviously first name is one example, but it's a lot of like the basic stuff like good morning, good evening, like really even like currency. So we're thinking about different rules that we can create per behavioral, so different behavior that people are doing. But honestly, from my experience, what I've seen, that real personalization starts way before that. And that is with what you know about your customers, why they buy from you, and why they've hired your product, your solution, your service to help them. A lot of the times we're really focusing on the features, the pricing, and we're really focusing on very specific elements when it comes to optimization. And what we should be focusing on, what are the emotions that drove them? Why did they buy? What solutions are they looking for? How do they feel right now? How do they want to feel? And once you know that, then you can create a more personalized experience that really touches on those pieces. It's not the elements that you're using, like first name, currency, or the time. It's what you're saying to people.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. I think we're nowadays on a breakthrough of personalization. We are talking about it's about 10 years. But a lot of companies get disappointed, like you say, Talia, because of the automated rules. They are based on rules. You tick 3 times on a yellow swimsuit, and it keeps following you on in campaigns on.
You're
on
not
Google
gonna
Ads
wear
and
anything
stuff.
other than yellow. Like once they see you trying something yellow, they're like, "This is a yellow person."
But I think based on what we now learn on AI, we can create contextual measurement and messages for our customers. So real personalization is, I think, only starting now at this moment, because we have now better tools to create the real message and the real context for our customers.
I might just jump in here. I agree with that. I might challenge it slightly in the sense that I think we're talking about personalization at scale. And so I think, to take a step back, it depends the stage and the journey of the brand, right? I think real personalization is much easier to do when you're really small, right? You can handwrite letters to every single customer. I think obviously it changes quite dramatically as you scale. And what we're talking about here is personalization at scale. So my sense is that, we are probably on the cusp of, to your point, Maurice, like great personalization, hyper personalization through the use of AI and all of the amazing tools that we've got at scale now. But prior to that, I think a lot can be said for thinking about the way in which you communicate brand moments with your customers that have got some element of personal nature to it. As I said, as you grow, you cannot write 300,000 thank you cards, I don't think, anyway. So that's where all of this lovely stuff that we're talking about becomes incredibly applicable.
Right. I would just say that I definitely agree. And I think the art that I guess I'm talking about is more, how do you know what to write in those personal cards, right? So they don't actually have to be handwritten personalized cards, but you can use AI, you can use different tools to get them into mass production and send them out. What matters is what you're actually writing in there, what you're putting in there. And with that, especially with AI, garbage in, garbage out. So the less you know about your customers and you put into AI, the worse kind of feedback you're going to get into it. And if you're using it just to create content, that's kind of what you're going to get, like really kind of garbage stuff. The more you know about your customers, the better you can personalize those things. So I completely
I love
agree.
it that I've been around AI for a long time, but I never until I met you guys, I never heard the phrase garbage in, garbage out. And I totally agree with that. I was always like, well, you have to write good prompts to get good results, right? I mean, if you write bad prompts, you're gonna get bad results. But I now hear, like, this is the third time in this event where garbage in, garbage out is mentioned. I'm like, how did I not hear that?
Yeah, and I
Maurice,
think,
you're the one
Alexia,
who mentioned that to me, actually.
Yeah, true. But I think it's not only you mentioning prompts as garbage, but it's also data.
Yeah.
And when you want to do what Talia is mentioning, and Tim, we have loads of people we want to have a personal message towards, and you really should use data instead of a prompt. You need the data and the behavior around that data to understand what message is fitting to the person. So the garbage in this part is really also the data part. What kind of data are you putting in your AI tool or stuff to get the right message out?
Agreed.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Right. Well, let's get on with the question that you kind of asked me to ask, because you mentioned a couple of tools that you're using, in the sense of I am using tools, and I'm wondering what specific tools do you use, and what specific combos, let's say, you would recommend for your customers or for the brands you work with, or like overall, what tools make your life easier. I'm gonna guess you will say ChatGPT, because this is a no-brainer response, because everyone uses that. But I am wondering if you have tips and tricks on how to use it, or other tools that you use. Let Lucy first, because she didn't answer the last question.
Lucy is having terrible connection problems, so I'm sort of smiling knowingly, but I'm getting every third word. But I will, if you guys can hear me, I'll just keep chatting, and then you just cut me off, Alexia, if you can't hear me.
You're great.
A tool that I use today, which I absolutely adore because it's saved me in some hot water, is a tool called Storefront.dev. Now, what you can actually do with Storefront.dev is you can get it to build whole apps for you. But I have not, as an agency founder, needed to use that because we have very talented devs we still work with. But today we had a scope change, and I needed to get something redesigned and rebuilt in a very short period of time. And so I was able to just take what I wanted in terms of the requirements and a sort of screenshot of what I wanted it to look like, very, very ugly sort of like mock-up I'd made. And I said, can you build this for me? And I typed it in as a prompt, and out it came, and I was able to do that. Now, I would always prefer to work with a UX UI designer for a full site redesign, but in this scenario, I would have had to go and find a designer, pay them for half a day, get them to do this tiny piece of work, which wouldn't have been very exciting or even interesting for them to do. And they would have lost a day of this project because we're very near to launch. So those sort of things, we wouldn't have been able to do that, I think, even a year ago. So I'm really glad they exist. And it kind of forces you to get better at writing prompts as well. You have to be really, really clear, because you're not just asking it to write you an email, it's code. So yeah, I would say Storefront.dev. If you haven't checked that out, guys, definitely do. It's a super powerful tool, great for prototyping and getting you out of sticky situations.
Yeah, I have used Lovable for a couple of I have used Lovable in the past, but I feel like it gets better once you spend 2 days working in it, because I was like, well, this is going to be very easy. I'm going to spend 2 hours and build a website with a AI tool. And I realized 2 days later that it did not take me 2 hours. It took me 2 days. So yeah, AI tools are great. You have to learn to use them. All right. Any other tools?
On that, I was just going to say that I think on that note, I think it's important. Like, what I love about what you said, Lucy, is how you were using it. I had a problem. I needed to fix it. #agency life. And had to like just find a product. I knew what I was trying to create. I knew what I needed, and I created it. And I think before we like jump into tools, I think that's the biggest issue, is that right now, I would say there are 2 big ways you can use AI. One is like outsource it, what a lot of people are doing, which is kind of like outsourcing thinking and content and everything to AI and expecting it to just create things from scratch for you. And that's what it looks like. And the other way of using AI is when you're using it to hone in your skills, become brainstorm, create better things, solve your problems, go back and forth and keep fixing and honing in on it. So what I would say is, even if the only tool you're using is ChatGPT, which is a great tool, I would urge people to think about how they're using it. What the content that we're seeing everywhere, the spam that we're seeing everywhere, is a result of people just outsourcing like very small tasks to things that they don't want to do themselves. But the way we should be using AI is really to help us be better at what we're already doing. So I just loved what you were saying, Lucy, about how you were using it to solve a very specific problem, and I think that's how we should all be using it.
Yeah. I might extend this thought. I'll jump in, Maurice, and then you can go. I'll keep my answer to less than 3.5 minutes. So totally agree with what you're saying, Talia, and obviously Lucy and I are very aligned. I think to take a step back, and you kind of hit the nail on the head there, you really do need to think about the problems that you're trying to solve first. Really, that's it. And then the tooling, it might be AI, it may not be. That's great. But the way in which we think about AI, which I think is useful to frame it within the context of this conversation, is there's external AI. That is the way in which a consumer will experience your brand through AI. And the previous conversation was kind of that. There's agentic search, there's agentic payments, there's going to be AI fit finders, etc. Right? So that's one bit that a brand needs to consider, is the way in which a consumer will consume their brand through AI. There is a world in which websites will not be the same as what they are in 5 years' time. They will be some sort of agentic experience, right? That is a thing that is coming, and how that will play out, we're not too sure, right? The second bit, and the bit that we do most of our advice on, is internal AI. And ultimately, internal AI is the way in which you use this technology to make yourself more efficient and likely more profitable, right? And that has got this huge plethora of tools, the way in which you think about it. The way we think about it is the future company will be this augmented AI kind of human experience, right? And it sounds a bit sci-fi, but that's the way in which we're building Factory, and we're imparting this knowledge into our own clients. So within that, there are a zillion tools and different ways of thinking. But really, within that model of making yourself more efficient and more profitable, you need to figure out what are the problems that you're trying to solve, and then apply AI kind of accordingly. The other component, which I think sits within the kind of internal AI discussion, but slightly to the side, and I think it's something that is a huge gap and potential opportunity area, is AI governance. That's AI ethics, AI compliance, and AI legal, right? Great example is we have got a brand that are incredibly sustainable. Sustainability is at the core of their brand, of everything that they do. AI currently uses a lot of water and energy, etc.
Yeah.
Do they use it? Do they not? I can't quite remember if they are, but like if they are B Corp, how does B Corp handle this kind of conversation, right? That's a whole podcast, live stream, whatever you want to call it, half-day workshop, 3-day event for anyone who wants to throw one, and so therefore then you extend on into AI compliance and AI legal, and the way in which you are using AI and from a data perspective, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So in answer to your question, I love GPT. I'm a fanboy, but it's a much wider conversation. Over to you, Maurice.
Of course.
Yes, thank you. And we shouldn't forget that there is a lot of AI in existing tools we all know very well. So we are a heavy user of Airtable. That's our knowledge bank for all our customers. And within Airtable, there's a lot of AI stuff which we can use to discover new opportunities for our customers, because we can create prompts into Airtable, and then from different hypotheses there will be a new test ID, and that kind of stuff is already happening in Airtable, because of Airtable is seeing the importance of AI and is developing that kind of stuff. The funny thing is, a lot of people, and it's mentioned here as well, is ChatGPT. But when I ask my developers on which tool are you using AI to create the code much quicker, they all call GitHub.
Yeah.
The GitHub has also AI opportunities. and they now the developers all say that's much more better and much more trustworthy than ChatGPT. So you see, and we are still trying out and discovering, and it's not that it's very founded in our processes, but we are playing with those kind of tools. But the developers are preferring GitHub already. Other funny thing we are now just trying and just piloting on is a Duet AI from Google, and that's interesting stuff because Duet AI is promising that they are using your Google information on analytics on other platforms to combine information and combine data, so they have a broad view on your behavior, and then AI is using that contextual to give you better advice on your data. So just trying and learning, not in our process yet, but that's very interesting because a lot of people are mentioning Google is out. ChatGPT is the winner, but Google has the information, has the history, and they now are creating stuff. That history becomes very important for new AI inventions which they create. So I think Google isn't out yet, and they are very smart, moving towards the history and the legacy they have on the years that they are already in our.
Oh, I'm sure they'll find a way. Everyone finds a way, right? I mean, in my opinion, there is like a bubble that needs to burst. I feel like everyone has been talking about AI, implementing AI, but now we're actually seeing results and seeing it, how it will change our world. I mean, right now, what we know, as you mentioned, Tim, like, it consumes a lot of water, it consumes a lot of energy. And there will be some radical changes with how we will implement AI in our day-to-day lives to accommodate the planet as well, right? And hope, God bless.
You make a really interesting point there, Alexia. I was just on a podcast before I jumped on here. Check it out; it's coming out Thursday. The prediction there was that there needs to be a correction within the market at some point. There's too much heat here. Like, it's too hot. Like, I think a good example being, I was chatting to somebody earlier today, and we were talking about automating some stuff with NAN, right? And it was just some basic internal workflow, and they can't quite get it to work. And I've been trialing it out. We can't quite get it to work. So if you think about us at this like really micro level, we are spending time, energy, and effort trying to make this automation work, and it's not quite there, right? So there's an sort of the ROI on it is kind of non-existent. So you extrapolate that out to Unilever, and they're doing it and spending loads and loads and loads of money and not necessarily getting the return on investment. There's probably going to be some sort of correction in the market whereby just some of the heat kind of gets taken off and the hype just goes down. I do not think, though, this is going to suffer the same fate as Web3. My sense is that AI is a real thing, and it is disrupting. But yeah, there will be a correction to your point.
I mean, I don't know whether you guys remember just after COVID, the pandemic, all of those sort of like bike courier, like instant delivery services exploded. And in London, at least, there were like 25. And then suddenly one day, someone came around and bought them all, and there was just one. And I just wonder whether that's kind of the direction we're going in with AI as well, because we've proven people like being able to order ice cream to their house at like 6 o'clock in the morning, or wine after the shops have shut. And in the same way, we've proven people want to be able to use this technology, but people are not necessarily loyal about which tool they're using, as long as it's effective and it's there and it works.
It's helping their lives. You mentioned a interesting point before, Tim, about how we will kind of see a bit of a change as well. I do remember, and I hope it's not going to be some sort of, you know, how they banned plastic straws to help pollute the waters less, and like, you know, catching a couple tons of fish is polluting the oceans as, I don't know, a full year of plastic straws around the world. So I hope we are going to find some solutions to these issues. And I'm wondering if you guys have any opinions of when it's unethical to use AI in terms of working with clients and retentions and stuff like that. Like, what would be the limits?
I might be able to add some color here, and then I'd be curious to get the other guys' thoughts.
Please.
Well, you need to be careful. If you're putting sensitive information into the web version of ChatGPT, that's going out into the internet. And so therefore, hence why I think AI governance is a big topic and probably not being discussed as much as it can be. So that, I would say, is not necessarily unethical, but people got to be a bit careful with what they kind of like do, right? Like that's the thing. And my sense is that a lot of brands are already doing this unknowingly, right? Their teams are using these tools and potentially putting sensitive information out there into the internet. So I think whether that's unethical, maybe needs some governance around it. But the way in which you kind of like lock that down, so you use ChatGPT, for instance, and you're using the web version that's going out, you can then use a sort of a slightly more hygienic way of using it, where you're using the ChatGPT API. That's a better way. And then the kind of next step up from that is you are kind of creating a slightly more locked down ecosystem using like a vector database and a RAG system, and you're only calling information that you kind of need. So that's kind of like some of the projects that we're currently scoping out are more within that world. Next stage is like building your own LLM, but I don't know anyone who's got the capital to do that. Maybe Mr. Bezos. So yeah, I think that's probably not necessarily an ethical thing, but it sits within our kind of thinking around, like, I suppose you'd call it governance. So AI ethics, legal, compliance, etc.
I think also to be ethical, as agency, providers, you need to be giving people good advice. It's unethical to be giving people bad advice and knowing it's bad advice, but just thinking, oh, people haven't caught on yet. So we need to hold ourselves accountable to make sure that we're giving people responsible inputs into how to use these tools. Because a lot of the time I don't know about you guys, but we're telling our clients to use this stuff and they're really excited by it, but they're also trusting us to tell them how to do it. So I think that's pretty fundamental. Yeah. Another thing that one of our clients was mentioning the other day was, she said, I'm bored of this dialogue that, it's coming for your jobs, because, I think the future is obviously, yes, it's going to take jobs, but, I've already got a job, yada, yada. And then one of her colleagues said, no, I actually really disagree with you, because we went to an event run by a sort of a tech platform, which I shan't mention. And they were saying, the thing about our brilliant new product is, if you've got a tiny team, now you don't need to hire another person, because our AI is going to allow them to do X, Y, and Z. So she said, and it said on the same day at the same event, AI is not going to take anyone's jobs. So it's sort of, it's maybe not going to take a job that you already have if you learn to use AI effectively, but it may prevent, spaces opening up where you might have been able to go in and do a sort of junior level or like data entry level kind of job. You're not going to have those anymore. And so, yeah, I think we do need to think about what all those people are going to do when they finish school or university, because they would have probably started doing something quite, boring but important and repetitive and learning. And now they're going to have to come in more at a mid-level. So how do you upskill in that way? I think that's kind of, for me, like the big unethical thing. Because I think you could solve the problem of the environmental impact of AI. I mean, I can't, but I'm hoping someone's working on it. I don't think you can necessarily solve the problem of it's going to make people more effective, and therefore we're not going to need less of them.
I will say, I think, first of all, I love just talking about authenticity for a second, because I think as we progress more into a world of AI, people are craving more and more community, meeting people face to face, and just like touching a second on like misleading people, or even just like, obviously as an agency, but also just take a look at LinkedIn. I mean, it's
what are you talking about, Talia? I do not understand what you're talking about.
It's a mess. And I think this kind of feels, I mean, we go on LinkedIn and there's like hundreds of people on there, either telling you that AI is coming for your job, or telling you that they're using 25 tools, and every day there's a new tool, and you're stupid and dumb, and like, how are you not doing all this? And that's it, it's done, you're gone. Like, wait for your next paycheck, it's not coming. Like, it really is this fear-mongering, like, crazy race. And a lot of it is because a lot of these people are building their brand, building positioning around this, dare I say, I don't want to curse. But anyway, it really is very inauthentic. And it's scaring a lot of people. And the reason I bring this up is because then I recently spoke at 2 events last week, and you meet people and you hear all these conversations, and people are frightened. Like people they don't know, like, am I behind? Am I not behind? Like, I'm just using GPT for this. Or I'm using Claude for this. I'm using Notebook LM. Is that okay? Like, people are scared. And I think this whole kind of rush to cancel things and say this is dead and that is dead and you're not getting a job and like all that is completely, it's just horrible. It's not even humane. Like, it's not human. And also us, like, as anyone who is using AI in any way should be talking about how they're using it and just normalizing it, because I think we should all normalize the fact that none of us know what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're all learning it from scratch. Like, there's no, unless you're working at OpenAI,
True.
and you're the only one that can say experts at AI. Like, that's the only person. And I think that is so inauthentic. And just, I really do believe that we're going to need a lot more just like face-to-face, in-person communities and meetups for that, just because there's just so much fear-mongering and making stuff up. And yeah, that to me is the most inauthentic thing, and like staying, I don't know, human.
The strange thing in this whole discussion about ethical and unethical is what's unethical in AI. It should be the same when you use a website or internet or doing an experiment on an A/B test. Then you have the same kind of basic rules of what's ethical or unethical. But we are now replacing it with AI, and we think that there is a new set of rules on ethics. I don't think so. But we have to learn, and I'm going a long way back. I created some first professional websites in the insurance world in the Netherlands around 2000. I recognize a lot of those hype cycle now on AI. In those days, you should have used the website, a new thing, and everyone went off their job because internet was the new stuff. Yeah, okay, it was the new stuff with new rules and new basics, but we're still here and we still have jobs and they change because of the internet. And I think the same will happen with AI. Of course, jobs will change, work will become more easy, but people have they taken advantage of the part that they make people afraid of the fact that you lose jobs or everything is going away from you. I think that's not the case. The trends will always be running more slowly than you expect, and
I feel like everyone is I feel like there is a general sense of FOMO, like we are always feeling like we're missing out on something, not going on enough holidays, not making enough money, not making enough sales, not having a good enough work-life balance. Like, everything around me is telling me that I'm doing a wrong, I'm doing a bad job at everything, and I feel like what is more complicated in that sense, especially for brands and entrepreneurs, is that you are running a endless cycle of getting clients, making clients come back, developing new products. Like, entrepreneurs are never they're never finished. There's always gonna be something to do, and there's always gonna be something to mess up, something to learn from, something to do, basically. And I'm wondering if you noticed any. I'm going kind of a little bit back into the retention space. Have you tried using or have you seen any peculiar things that AI tools recommended or found out, or things that you did not think before in terms of getting these clients back and in the customer's retention journey? Does the question make sense? I'm wondering if I made it too long and lost my words while saying the sentence.
Talia, you might be able to take this one.
Put her on the spot like that.
I feel like I've said enough about like how people are not doing a good job.
I think it's maybe not so much it's revealed something peculiar to me, but I think I'm always kind of slightly freaked out by asking questions like of any AI about something that's got very, very publicly available documentation like Shopify or Klaviyo or any kind of one of these tools. and you ask it a very simple question, and it tells you something that you just know straight up is completely incorrect. So an example being, I was trying to work out how to set up a few different promotions for some subscribers we had for one of our clients. And the first thing it told me was write a Shopify script. And people who are familiar with Shopify will know that Shopify scripts have been deprecated, and they just, you can't use them anymore. Or at least if you can, you shouldn't, because they're not supported. I don't know when they're being turned off, but soon, I think. Anyway, it printed me out sort of very pleased with itself, this whole process. And I was just going, this is completely useless. And so somebody who maybe was a little bit less familiar with what Shopify could and couldn't do in that scenario, it would have gone, you've got to be so careful. And I do think it's amazing how it still can, pick up very, very outdated information. And that always surprises me when it happens.
It does indeed. I also tried to use ChatGPT to kind of help me find out some things around Shopify's Shopify payment system or something, and it told me something totally far away from what I was looking for. Like, told me that I needed to authenticate my domain, make a contract, and I was like, fuck no. Sorry. But you're wrong, and I hope that everyone is taking everything that AI says with a pinch of salt.
Is this a good time to say how I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, we used ChatGPT to plan a trip in Italy, and my husband and I were driving around for, I think, 45 minutes with 2 toddlers looking for a restaurant that does not exist. And then when I wrote to ChatGPT, where is this restaurant? And it goes, oh, this is not a real restaurant. It's just an example of a restaurant that could exist. And I'm like, okay, thank you. Cool. Grain of salt.
Yeah. Any other interesting things that AI showed you in terms of retention that you didn't particularly think of before, or have started using more often, or helped your life with?
I'm going to take a slight sidestep here. We've got Agnostus here in the chat, and he's saying that even calling it AI is using buzzwords. It's not intelligent. You assumed you knew what intelligence is and ignorantly ran with it. It doesn't reason. It has no agency. It doesn't think. It doesn't know. It doesn't understand. I think that's an interesting call out. Can we get
Agnostus? Not wrong.
Can we get him up on stage? Does it have that personality? No, maybe not.
Unfortunately not, but I feel like it's right.
Insights, Agnostus. Yeah, feel free to hit us up afterwards, and we can have a chat. To your question, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think to both the guys' points, you've got to be. I suppose it gets back to the sort of slightly, and not to suggest, Lucy, put garbage in, garbage out, but there's an element of like, I think it's kind of wrapped into an odd thing about like AI trust, AI stigma. There's this thing that's there, like there's this new technology and we're not quite sure how it works and we're wrapping our heads around it. And I think there's a couple of things going on. One, there's still, and I think that's changing, the stigma of using AI, right? I think maybe a little while ago, people were embarrassed to say, I'd produced this thing with AI. Now, to take the point that you made, Talia, on LinkedIn, people don't seem to give a shit. They're just running with it. Like, it's going crazy in terms of just like pure AI tripe, right? But then I think there is the kind of like trust element to it. Can you trust the information that's kind of coming out? And I think that that's changing, but I see that as a serious challenge kind of for the technology, right? And that's wrapped up in the way in which it's constructed and hallucination, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, so hopefully AI trust is getting better.
So I guess I'll add to that like you were asking Alexia about how we use it. So what I will say is the way we've been at least using it in some cases is really analyzing behavior and emotional insight and surveys and interviews, and using that information and retention behavior to put it into ChatGPT or any other tool and see what we can create from that, what we can find, what are the different experiences that people are going through, what they're feeling, what they like, what they don't like, in order to then create better emails for them or better experiences within the product. So I don't think it's a specific tool that I would call out and say, this is the tool that we use for retention. I think it's more about how we're using it in terms of the data and more more correctly, the insights that we're able to put into AI and then use in order to optimize different retention sequences or product optimization. So a lot of the stuff that we've done has allowed us to increase onboarding, for example, within the product or even via email, just by calling out the right things, writing the right things, talking about specific pains or concerns or hesitations that people have, and bringing those to the forefront.
Yeah, true. Yeah, we also use it for structuring information, and a nice example is we often use it now for rating and reviews to understand. We go to Trustpilot, we download all those ratings and reviews, and from a dozen of ratings and reviews, which normally you go by eye and then put it in Excel and hope a segment, but now it's much more easy, and you can get a lot of useful insights out of those reviews. That's just a tiny example of the benefit of using AI for this kind of analyzing stuff.
Yeah, well, Maurice, this is exactly what I was about to show everyone, because we at Omniconvert have actually developed something new that I feel like will help brands with retention, which I'm going to demo in just 2 minutes to make sure we finish the panel first. So I wanted to ask you some, what would be your tips and tricks, or what are some things that you want people to get out of this session? Like, what is something that if you heard that the first time before scrambling around, would have made your life a little bit easier? Something like I made another long question. Who wants to start?
Yeah, for me personally, the most important thing for AI is using the right data. When you want, it's not about the prompt or the visual, and that's the LinkedIn hype, but it's when you're using your customer data, and you can use it within the right AI tool to recognize patterns and to create algorithms. I think that's the next thing, the next big thing in to better understand the context of your customers, and that starts with the right data set. So you need data analysts, data scientists to help you with those questions and those stages to come at the end point, I think. And that's a lot of time overseen in the AI discussion. Without any decent data, then is again the garbage in and garbage out saying is there.
Yeah, that's totally right.
I might jump in. I'm not sure if Agnostis is trolling me personally, or is he trolling the group? I think we can agree that Agnostis is not a fan of AI. So
I wouldn't say it's
maybe not a fan of us.
I feel like it's not necessarily a bad intention, like what and I'm gonna show this on the screen. I feel like it's a opinion of someone who is a little bit no. Oh, all right. No, I think things are going
Agnostis, Maurice, Agnostis does not agree with your opinion that it is the damn data. So I think we can agree that maybe Agnostis, you sit on one side of the spectrum. I would like to think that we all sit maybe somewhere in the middle of the spectrum. We are not full AI Kool-Aid, consumers to the nth degree. But to your point, Alexia, maybe to add a little bit of color, let's take away the AI conversation. And I think Lucy and I talk about it a lot. Most companies and the brands that we work with are a function of people, process, and kind of technology, right? And I think if you ask the right questions around where the gaps are within those pieces of your organization, you will find, and if you work with great people like the people that are on this panel and many others within the ecosystem, the answers to those questions. And maybe AI will be a solution to one of the answers to those questions. So be curious, ask loads of questions, think about your people, process, and technology and where you've got gaps. And I think that's a really good place to start. Agnostis has worked in AI for 20 years, so I think he should be on the panel. If I'm totally honest, guys. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Well, I'm gonna have a conversation with him. Unfortunately, I don't see the comment directly on LinkedIn. I only see it here in the studio. So hit me up after the conversation to the stream to continue the conversation. I'm really intrigued. All right. Anyone that has anything left to say before I do a small demo?
I guess my thing that I think is always really helpful to remember, and I have to tell this to myself a lot of the time, and I think probably a lot of people who use Nosto, Omniconvert, run agencies, have an agency partner. There's a reason that we're talking about this in the context of marketing, e-commerce, D2C, right? And not brain surgery or things that are really, life or death situations. I think the lovely thing about what we do is that even though it's it's people's livelihood and it's interesting and we enjoy it, it is not. It's my friends like to say it's PR, not the ER, right? It's it's e-commerce. It's we're lucky to work in something like mildly frivolous, and so I think that's why we can have a bit more fun experimenting with these new technological tools, because at the end of the day, the worst thing you're going to do is accidentally mess up a spreadsheet, rather than anything seriously important. So it's good to have context when you're thinking about the scale and the importance and the big conversation about AI. We are just selling stuff online, guys.
All right, perfect. Then thank you so much for joining and being on the panel today. I have enjoyed my time a lot, and I hope you have as well. And we should do this more often. But we have to jump in the next session.
No worries. Thanks very much, guys. See ya, Agnostus.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
All right, perfect. Then what I'm going to do right now is present you a little bit of our latest tool that we have developed, which is very nice and very fun. So the idea around Brand Feel, which is the tool that I that we are launching right now, is we have noticed that around the internet, there are a lot of places where people leave reviews and where your reputation comes in. And what's the first step that you take when you try to create a retention strategy? You try to see where your issues are, what your customers are having problems with, and basically how to improve your product so that your customers will buy that product again or your other products. And we have developed brandfeel.ai, which is a AI powered tool that analyzes your reputation from around the internet and comes up with some pretty fun insights. I don't know if fun is the right word, but it's definitely something interesting to see here. So we've got the rating overview that this app sees from your Trustpilot reviews, Google, and so on. The distribution, it analyzes the sentiment that comes up often in those reviews, sorts them positive and negative based on what it finds, and will also analyze the Google Maps locations for stores that have also physical locations. Now, we analyze the reviews, the issues as well, so it's sort of like an NLP, like natural language processing type of AI, and identifies issues and overall sentiment associated with those issues. So you can kind of get a sense of what these people have problems with and where you can improve. We are also working on a benchmark for comparison to compare yourselves with other websites in your same niche or in the same city or stuff like that. And also we are going to come up with some very interesting insights around like Reddit, Quora, or other places on the internet that are not necessarily Trustpilot or your website. So if you want to join in, we have the waitlist is open and we are waiting for you here.